Welcome, everybody. Warm welcome. Thank you for the nice messages in the chat. And I'd like to especially welcome my friend Maya. Maya, you want to put your video on? There we have her.
Thank you, dear Nithya. Welcome, everybody. Happy to be here today.
Tell everybody where you're calling in from, where you're joining us from today.
I'm in Belgrade, Serbia, Europe.
So I invited Maya because I think Maya is someone who converges a lot of amazing things, and her ability to be both an artist and a meditation teacher and many other things. And whenever I've interacted with her and she's shared her way of guiding meditation, I've really enjoyed it, Maya. So I thought it'll be great to introduce you to the community and to have you on today's special full moon Guru Purnima day, to also have you share with us. So in a little while, I'm going to be inviting Maya to do her magic with all of us. Thank you for joining us. What time is it there?
Here is 7 p.m.
7 p.m. All right, great. And are you in a big town there, or are you in some?
Yes, Belgrade is.
Belgrade. Okay. I thought you were going to be traveling. You said as well, right? Yeah, great. All right, thank you, Maya. Good. So those of you who want to put your video on, today is normally my night session. I keep my video off on Zoom, but I don't want to keep it on today. So let's just start with a moment of stillness. Just be quiet for a bit. Take a moment to tune in. Allow yourself to tune into yourself. Also tune into the special time of the month, the full moon. What's it like to be here right now? And also tonight is Guru Purnima, so a chance to reflect on all our teachers and guides, all those who supported us, guided us. The word Guru, Gu means darkness and Ru means light. So one who removes the darkness, the confusion around who we really are. We're often told from childhood, you're this, you're that, you're good at this, you're bad at that. And somehow we build a kind of a structure, an assumption about who we are. And a guru is anyone who helps you break some of that illusion, some of that distortion, and guide you in the direction of understanding your true nature, who you really are. So anyone who you think has helped you in that direction, even a little bit, even if you've never met them, maybe you only read a book by them, then it is suitable for us tonight to just be grateful, just be thankful. And can we have at least a minute of pure gratitude? So tonight, I thought I would share with you a little bit about some of my important teachers. I don't think I've had a chance to talk about it in detail before, at least not in one place. And some of you who've been in touch with me before have heard me talk about some of them in different places. But I thought today's Guru Purnima night, so it'll be nice to give you an overview of some of the people I consider important teachers in my journey. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to hand it over to Maya for the second part of tonight. And she's going to be guiding us through meditation and some more unexpected stuff. Maya always has something up her sleeve. So, all right. I want to start with a beautiful little prayer. And you can actually repeat this after me. The meaning of this prayer is, it's a Pali prayer, and we say this very often in the Buddhist tradition. What it means is that by the power of any goodness I have done, may I not associate with those who take me away from the truth. May I always associate with those who bring me closer to the truth. And the ultimate truth, which is freedom from all suffering, or nirvana. The word nirvana, the Pali word is nibbana, and it means the ending of burning. And we all know that our resistance creates friction, which is kind of inner burning in our experience. So nibbana is the ending of friction, the ending of this inner burning, nirvana, the ending of burning, the ending of suffering. So repeat this after me if you like. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Let's do it again. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. And the last time. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May it be so, may it be so, may it be so. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. So we chanted that by the power of any goodness I have done, by thoughts, words, and actions, any sincerity, any kind, genuine act in my life, by that power, by that potency, may I always associate with the wise, may I not associate with the fools, and those who take me away from the truth, those who put me into confusion, and may I associate with the wise, those who bring me closer to the truth. And so today I'm going to be reading out a list of people who have supported me in that direction, in that journey. And some of you will be familiar with them, some of you will not be familiar with some of these people. So the first one, of course, is, in fact, I put this list on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, you could also see I put up this list. If you're part of my Telegram group also, but you don't have to have the list, you can just listen to me read it out. So the first one is mom and dad, because as we know, our first teachers are our mom and dad. And they guide us in so many, maybe more ways than we can even imagine. And they teach us what is suitable and what is not suitable. And what I especially appreciate about my mother and father is how they've given me a lot of freedom in my life. Even though they didn't always agree with my decisions, they gave me freedom to explore my life on my terms. And I think that's a really amazing gift. And they also put me in very interesting schools. Like I went to a school called Mirambika, for example, where we decided what we wanted to study. What a revolutionary idea, that you can trust a student to know what they want to study. Almost no school in the world does that. It's like, no, we'll tell you what to study. Oh, really? You've done a great job with your life, is it? That you're going to tell us what to study? So it's great to trust that kids will know what they want to study. Kids have a desire to learn. They have a lot of initiative, a lot of creativity, but we're trying to force fit them into a system. So I was lucky to go to schools where, at least for some time of my schooling, I was given a lot of freedom in how I wanted to learn. And that's just one part, of course, of my parents. So a lot of gratitude to my parents. And if you're feeling grateful to your parents, if you're hearing this, then also take a moment. So grateful to my mother and father for supporting me. The Buddha actually says, he says something very dramatic, actually. He says, if you were to carry your mother on your left shoulder and your father on your right shoulder, your whole life, and you took care of all their needs, you would still not be free from the debt of gratitude you owe your parents. Imagine that. Carrying your mother on your left shoulder, your father on your right shoulder, your whole life, and taking care of all their needs. He said, no, you're still, the debt you owe to them is more than that. So now he said, oh my goodness, so I can never come out of the debt to my parents. But then the Buddha gives you a resolution. He said, but they're the way out of it. So what's the way out of it? If your parents are stingy and you teach them the benefits of being more open-hearted, you have repaid your debt of gratitude to your parents. If your parents are in a habit of speaking and behaving in a way that hurts others, and you teach them the benefits of not doing that. So in Buddhism, this is called morality, or it's called virtue, where you refrain from 5 things: not killing, not stealing, and so on. Not lying, not having intoxicants, not misusing your sensual energy, such 5 things. So the Buddha says if your parents are not skillful at that, for example, they have a habit of lying, or they have a habit of beating other people, hurting other people, stealing things, then you tell them, no, this is not suitable. And if you can help them in that direction, you have repaid your debt of gratitude to your parents. And if your parents have wandering minds, as I imagine most of us also have, and if you help your parents to have a little bit more calmer minds, centered minds, focused minds, you have repaid your debt of gratitude to your parents. And if your parents have not understood the true nature of things, for one basic true nature of things, everything is impermanent, arriving and passing, changing. If your parents still assume everything is permanent and get shocked when something changes, how could it happen? How could it happen? Things change. Expect them to change. And you can develop the wisdom, for example, of change, the wisdom. You strengthen the wisdom in your parents. You have repaid your debt of gratitude to your parents. And if your parents are bound, they still believe that this body is them and this mind is them. Even though the body doesn't listen to them and the mind also doesn't listen to them, they still assume it's them. And they're still bound in that illusion. Then you help them come out of that. Then you have repaid it. So in other words, you repay your debt of gratitude to your parents by any kind of a boost in their spiritual progress. According to the Buddha, this is the only way you can repay your debt of gratitude. Nothing you can do in terms of caring for them and feeding them and clothing them and medicine for them, that does not repay your debt of gratitude to your parents. Because what they have done for you is far more than anything else you can ever do for them. You might have seen this video about this, it's quite a famous video. There's a man sitting on a bench with his father. The guy is busy on his phone or reading a book or something. And there's a little bird that comes and sits on the lawn. And the father asks his son, what's that? And the son looks and says, yeah, father, that's a sparrow. And again, a few seconds, his father says, what's that? Yeah, father, I told you it's a sparrow. What's that? Father, what's wrong with you? It's the same bird. I've told you, it's a sparrow. What's that? Father, what's the matter with you? Are you insane? Tell me, are you crazy right now? Has age finally caught up with you? I mean, I'm telling you again and again, it's a bloody sparrow. Leave me alone. What's that? And now he shouts at the father, stop it. You're irritating me. Then the father, on the side, he has a notebook, and he gives his son the notebook, and he opens the page to read this. What is it? Read this. So it's a diary entry from a time when his son was a boy. And it's written over there, today my innocent boy asked me 17 times, what's that? And I told him it's a sparrow. And he again asked, what's that? And I told him it's a sparrow. 17 times he asked me, 17 times I patiently told him it's a sparrow. And so when he read that, he broke down, like, my father asked me 5 times, I was about to punch him. And my father, I asked him 17 times and he patiently replied to me. This is just one example of why you can never repay the debt of your gratitude to your parents. by just because the patience they've had in bringing you up is far more than any patience you will ever have in dealing with them. So which is why the first item on my list is parents. Debt of gratitude to our parents. Okay, next one I've written on my list is Sri Aurobindo and the mother. So I talked about the school a little while back. I went to a school in Delhi called Mirambika. Some of you live in Delhi, so you know Sri Aurobindo Ashram. And I was very grateful to be in the school. And the school is inspired by the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo and his spiritual companion, the mother. Sri Aurobindo had a very illustrious life. He used to be incredibly intelligent, studied abroad. He was a tutor to the Maharajas. And then he became a revolutionary freedom fighter. And he was actually a violent freedom fighter. He said, we have to throw the British out. This is not going to work. And that didn't work. So he was put into prison. And in prison, he began to have these mystical experiences. He began to experience everything in the prison had become Krishna. And he was put in solitary confinement, which is actually one of the worst forms of imprisonment. But he was blissing out in prison because everything had become Krishna for him. The pillow had become Krishna and the bars had become Krishna. He was in Krishna consciousness the whole time. And then Krishna guided him at a certain point when he was given parole to escape and go to Pondicherry, which at that time was a French colony. So the British had no control over it. So the rest of his life he spent in Pondicherry in a small room, which is still there in Pondicherry. And Sri Aurobindo had a very unique philosophy where he says that my yoga begins where traditional yogas end. So in other words, Sri Aurobindo's yoga begins what we call enlightenment. Sri Aurobindo says that's the first step. So like a little while back, he says, Yava Nibbana Pati. Everything Nibbana and Nirvana, enlightenment to the highest state. Sri Aurobindo says, welcome. This is where we begin. So Sri Aurobindo, his vision is so expansive. I actually cannot think of any other spiritual teacher with a vision as expansive as Sri Aurobindo's. Because Sri Aurobindo is asking some very, very interesting questions. He's saying, how is it, despite so many people getting enlightened, the rest of us are still in a mess? So many great ones have come and gone, but the rest of us are still in a mess. He says, because matter itself has to be divinized. What ends up happening is you escape like this and you're gone poof. He says, it's only half the journey. The other half is to take that supramental consciousness and bring it down into this. So like you may have heard of how the Kundalini rises in the spinal column and goes to the top of your head. That's like one metaphor for enlightenment. The serpent of the Kundalini goes to the top of your head and boom, enlightened. And Sri Aurobindo is saying, well done. Half the job is done. Now bring it down. Now bring it down those same chakras and divinize matter itself. So what I like about Sri Aurobindo's teachings is he's saying human beings are a transitory being. You think human beings are very great and very advanced. Sri Aurobindo says, no, we're a transitional being. And no wonder we have such a lot of tumultuousness in our human civilization. Because we're a transitional being. And we have within us a lot of animal instincts and a lot of other things. And now to bring down a higher consciousness. So that was the mission of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. So it's a very vast philosophy. It's a very profound philosophy. And it has influenced some of the greatest thinkers of our time, Ken Wilber and some of the other very leading edge thinkers have been influenced by Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. So I was very moved and touched by Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. And in fact, I would have continued with it. The only thing is Sri Aurobindo's philosophy is so hard to understand. Just go and download any book of Sri Aurobindo's. And best of luck reading even 5 pages and like, what just happened? Almost reading it itself is like a great sadhana. And the mother is somewhat easier and she's much more accessible. That doesn't mean it's not valid and it's not true. It's just that for me at that age, when I first, like I was studying this stuff when I was a teenager, and it was like, I don't even know what to do with this, honestly. It's just although he does try to simplify it in many places. Like one of the ways he simplifies it, he says 3 things. So when somebody said, okay, what am I supposed to do? He says 3 things: aspiration, rejection, surrender. Aspiration is you aspire for whatever you believe is the highest. Rejection is you reject all impulses that you know within yourself not to be in alignment with that highest. And surrender is you give up your personal will and you trust thy will be done. There is a higher order, there's a higher intelligence in the universe. Let thy will be done. May all my thoughts, words, and actions be guided by that higher resonance. You want to call it your higher self, you want to call it whatever, but there's a higher intelligence and you trust that. So aspiration, rejection, surrender. That's the simplest form in which we can approach Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. So gratitude to Sri Aurobindo and the mother. And if you ever come to India, some of you not from India, check out Pondicherry and Auroville international community of people who are trying to live by these principles. Then I was 16 years old and I was introduced to the Vipassana tradition. It's a tradition where you practice meditation quite intensively. You have these 10-day courses, you live in silence. And so I had a chance to experience that. And that was, even though I'd kind of meditated before, I went to a school where we were taught meditation, but not so systematically. So for me, it was a big breakthrough to learn meditation so systematically, awareness of breath, awareness of physical sensations, awareness of mind states. And so a lot of gratitude to S.N. Goenka and the Vipassana lineage, which traces itself back to all the Buddhas. And I had studied, I mean, of course, in India, we do learn about the Buddha's teachings in school, but the way I mean, you can just tell those books have been written by people who have no idea what the Buddha talked about. So the Eightfold Path, the way they described it, perfect speech, perfect action. I said, what perfect? There's nothing, I can't do things so perfectly. So the way it was even described just seemed inaccessible to me. But the way these practitioners described it, in fact, I could see it. I'll tell you, the very first time I went for my Vipassana course, I could see it. Even as a young person, I could see it. These people have something and I want it. I could see they have a certain peace. They have a certain grace. They have a certain non-resistance in them, and I want it. In fact, I have a very clear image of my first meditation teacher walking from his hut to the meditation hall, walking very calmly in a very relaxed way. He was a bit of a big man, like teddy bearish kind of man. And the wind was playing with his hair. The breeze was playing with his hair, playing with his shawl. And as he was walking by me, he smiled, and there was a gentle fragrance in the air. And I said, I don't know what he has, but I want that. Whatever he has, I want. And there's a certain power of intention, you know, so never underestimate the power of intention. I teach it in a more fun way these days. I say copy paste. Whenever you like something, you say copy paste. I also want. So today Maya will be teaching meditation. If you like her way of teaching meditation, say copy paste. She's amazing. We want to learn to do it the same way, right? So never feel that you're left out. It's called mudita, rejoicing in the goodness of others. Copy paste. So a lot of gratitude to Goenkaji and the Vipassana tradition. For many years, I was part of that tradition. And then I went on to become a Buddhist monk myself. And initially, Goenkaji was not always giving people permission to become a monk. He felt you should continue in the household life. But in my case, I did become a monk. And he was very kind. He wrote me a letter when I was a monk, and he did bless me. So that was very nice to receive his letter. And gratitude to my the lineage I went to in Thailand, Ajahn Chah. You should look up the teachings of Ajahn Chah. Wonderful teacher, wonderful monk. Ajahn is the Thai word for acharya. In India, the word for teacher is acharya. And by the time it reaches Thailand, acharya becomes like the game of telephone where you whisper something in someone's ear. And by the time it passes around, the word is changed. You might have heard of Zen. Zen is another victim of this, because the original word in India is dhyan, which in Pali language becomes jhana, which by the time it goes to China becomes chan, which by the time it goes to Korea becomes son, which by the time it goes to Japan becomes Zen. So Zen is actually dhyana, which over the game of telegram or telephone has changed over time. So Zen is actually dhyan. So in the same way, acharya becomes Ajahn. So Ajahn Chah. And Ajahn Chah had many unique qualities, very, very outstanding qualities, actually. His highest quality, I would say, is determination. He never gave up. In fact, I don't know if you know this word in English. It's called hagiography. Hagiography is, Lalita, of course, you're nodding your head. You're an editor. So of course, if you didn't know it, I would have been very upset. So hagiography is when you write a biography, but not a normal biography. You're praising the person to the heavens. Oh, this person is so amazing and so amazing and so amazing. And while he was still alive, they wrote this kind of a biography, which is actually a hagiography, talking about all the miracles around him and all the wonderful things. And when he read it, he said, throw this in the dustbin. Nonsense. So this book is meaningless. Talk about my struggles. Talk about my challenges. Talk about my doubts. So you write a book like this and people say, yeah, he was born special. I was not born special. I was born with everything you could imagine. Every, what we call defilements in Buddhism. So whether it's greed or it's hatred or it's ignorance or it's pride or it's doubt, he said, I had all of them all the way up. The barrel was full. The only saving grace was I had strong determination. I didn't give up. And I stuck with it. I was honest with myself. Beautiful quality of Ajahn Chah. So his teachings are very grounded and Therefore, I could relate to them, and someone who very, very inspiring. So check out the writing of Ajahn Chah, and just literally seeped in wisdom through and through, right? Very down to earth. And then his disciple, one of his foremost disciples, Lungpo Liam, was my direct, because by the time I reached Thailand, Ajahn Chah had already passed on. So Lungpo Liam was one of his main disciples, who then was abbot of his monastery. So he was my Upajjhaya. Upajjhaya, the one who ordains you. And Lungpo Liam is also a very amazing character. He hardly speaks. He's mostly quiet. So if you go and sit with him, you ask him a question, he'll keep looking everywhere. Like, I asked a question, he'll just ignore you. He'll pretend like you're not even there. You know, what a strange monk is this? So he's known for his silence, and he's known for, and the idea is, be present with me. You have the answer. Don't pretend like you don't have the answer. That's what he's trying to say. What he's really trying to say is, you're pretending like you don't know, but you know. You get quiet, you'll get it, right? So he's famous for, Lungpo Liam, famous for not talking much. And very, very simple monk. If you, in fact, if you go to his hut, it might be confusing. Does anyone even live here? Because there's nothing in the hut. There's almost nothing. He sleeps on the floor. He puts his own robe as a sheet to sleep on the floor. It's very little evidence anyone even lives in the hut. So when you become a monk, you're supposed to gift something to your teacher. Now, what do you gift a teacher who doesn't keep anything? So I asked the other monks, what do you gift him? He said, yeah, there's one thing he likes. There's a kind of medicinal oil. You know, like we have these eucalyptus oil or something. Yeah, he likes that oil. So he keeps applying that oil. That's one of his favorite things. So, all right. So that I bought him that oil. That was my gift to my teacher when I ordained as a monk. So one interesting story about that is Lungpo Liam had an uncanny ability to know whatever is happening throughout the monastery. And people said, how does he figure it out? I mean, you do anything in any corner of the monastery, he's aware of it. So some people suspected that he was using some kind of astral travel. Something was up, because he's sitting there, and anything that happens in any corner of the monastery, he's aware of it. So I remember one time, and I was not even in the same monastery, I was in a branch monastery a few kilometers away. I was staying there in Wat Manachat. And in one particular meditation, at the end of the meditation, I thought of him, I was sending him loving kindness. I was sending him loving wishes. And as I got up and I began walking, I got the distinct smell of that particular oil that I gifted him. And there was nobody there. And there was that distinct smell of that oil. And that was in my imagination. I was like, all right, he's hanging around. He's come to say hi to me in this moment. Who knows? This is all stories. But you did have a sense that he had that special capacity. That's Lungpo Liam. Lungpor is an honorific thing we say. Luangpor is like Venerable Father. So Ajahn is a normal term. And then if you know someone well, you call them Lungpor. And then Ajahn Sumedho was one of the people who attracted me to this particular tradition. He's an American monk. Ajahn Sumedho also had a very interesting life. And one story of Ajahn Sumedho is that before he came to meet Ajahn Chah, he was traveling around. He was studying Zen in different places. Just quite eclectic. And before he even came, Ajahn Chah was building the monastery. So Ajahn Chah said, in one particular hut, he said, make the door bigger. So they said, why? I mean, Thai people are not that tall. You know, generally, Thai people may be slightly shorter than Indians. So they couldn't understand why he's asking, make the door bigger. And Ajahn Chah said, just make the door bigger. So they made the door bigger. Few days later, this tall man arrives. Because Ajahn Sumedho is actually more than 6 feet tall. And so Ajahn Chah knew he's coming. So he'd had this hut built with a bigger door. Build a hut with a bigger door. This guy is coming. He needs a door. He's going to bang his head otherwise. And so that's a fun story of Ajahn Sumedho. So lots, and these are all famous teachers. You can Google them. Amazing, lots of talks on YouTube and things. So Ajahn Sumedho is there. Ajahn Sumedho. In fact, one other fun story of Ajahn Sumedho is he was one of the monks who set up the first branch monastery in the UK. Chithurst was one of the first branch monasteries in the UK. I'm forgetting, Sarah, where it is. You can look in Google Chithurst and you'll find where it is. It's there in the UK. And so after a year or two, Ajahn Sumedho came back to Thailand to report to Ajahn Chah how it's going. So Ajahn Chah, how's it going? So he said, it's so peaceful. We are so harmonious. We get along so well together. We hardly have any fights. Everything's flowing like clockwork. And Ajahn Chah made a face. So Ajahn Sumedho said, what happened? Are you not pleased? We're doing so well. He said, if you're all getting along so harmoniously, then how are you ever going to learn anything? So Ajahn Chah is like, you only learn when there's misunderstanding and there's friction and there's challenges. So what a unique way of thinking. We normally think that what a great thing, right? We're getting along harmoniously. In Ajahn Chah's world, no, that's not how you get. You learn because when there's friction and personalities clash. That was a fun thing I remember. And then there's Ajahn Brahm. Ajahn Brahm, his full name is Ajahn Brahma Vangso, but most people can't pronounce that. So nowadays he's just called Ajahn Brahm. In fact, when he was teaching in a school, they were really laughing. So he said, why are you laughing? He said, the first time we've met a man whose name begins with Bra. Oh God, I come to a school and they're calling me Bra. So Ajahn Brahm is again a great monk who grew up in the UK and came to Thailand. And I've particularly been influenced by his ability to tell a lot of stories. One of the reasons I think I tell a lot of stories is I've loved Ajahn Brahm's style of telling stories. And as you know, stories are a great way for us to remember things. If I was to just tell you right now, for example, the philosophies of all these teachers, I mean, you would have already fallen asleep. It's already late in India, right? But because I'm telling you stories, chances are you're a little bit more alert and a little bit more attentive. And people remember stories a lot better than they remember just facts, right? So Ajahn Brahm, that's one of the many things I've learned from him. He's also very gifted at teaching meditation. So if you want to get a good introduction to meditation, you should look up Ajahn Brahm's videos and look up a lot of free books of his available online. So check out Ajahn Brahm. He lives in Perth, Australia. Of course, he teaches all over the world. One thing Ajahn Brahm did, which is interesting, if you should consider, some of you could consider doing this. He made a promise to himself that when he becomes 50 years old, he will stop everything and do a 6-month silent retreat. 6 months, right? So, because he had built this entire monastery and he kept that promise to himself. Already he was a famous teacher at that time. You see, when you're a famous teacher, so many disciples, so many people, then it's very easy to just keep going. But he kept his promise. And when he was 50 years old, they made a special hut for him. I'm forgetting if it's a hut or if it's a cave. Some combination of hut and cave it was, I think. And he spent 6 months and he never saw another human being. In fact, once he accidentally saw, because the idea was food would be kept at a particular point. In our tradition, monks normally eat once a day. So food would be kept at a particular point. He'd get the food, he'd go back to his place and he'd eat his food and he'd do his practice. And one day the person coming to give the food got a little late. So accidentally he saw a human being, but actually his aim was to not see another human being for 6 months and just be with himself. He almost did that. He didn't interact with anybody. And he's talked about, in one of his talks, he's talked about his experience of meditating intensively for 6 months on his own. In the Buddhist world, that's not a big deal. People do that for years. It's quite common in the Tibetan tradition. 3 years, 3 months, 3 days. That's a typical length of a Tibetan retreat. So a lot of people, there are people who do that multiple times in their lifetime. 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days. In fact, I was inspired by that. And I offered a course a few years back, which was 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days long. It just finished a few months back. It was not continuous the way a retreat is, but nevertheless, it was that period of time. So that's Ajahn Brahm. And then one of my favorite teachers, which I actually consider one of my big 3 teachers, is Nisargadatta Maharaj, a person who was a BD seller. BD is a kind of Indian cigarette. He was a cigarette seller in Mumbai. Quite entrepreneurial, set up many small, these cigarette shops throughout Mumbai. And then one day someone took him to meet a spiritual teacher. And just in the first few words that they were talking, the teacher looked at him and said, "Who are you?" So he replied with his name and where he lives and what he does. And the teacher said, "No, that's what you do, but who are you?" And it became very clear to him that it's true. That's what I do, but who am I? And the way the teacher asked it, find out who you really are. You're just talking about what you do, but who are you really? And the teacher asked with such penetrating power and sincerity that Nisargadatta Maharaj took that to heart and he made that his central inquiry. And he began to question, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? So a relatively poor person, relatively uneducated person, not a particularly good looking person, but someone who took this to heart and he practiced it wholeheartedly. In fact, in between, Nisargadatta Maharaj even left his family. He thought he wants to become a kind of he wandered all over India as an ascetic. He was about to go into the Himalayas, never returned. And then he met a fellow disciple at Delhi. And the disciple said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to the Himalayas, never coming back." He says, "No, that's not what our teacher taught." our teacher said, practice this in the household life. And somehow he convinced him. So he comes back to Bombay. By this time, most of his shops have, I mean, he was not there. So the family was barely managing. All the shops have gone. Only one shop remains. He said, it's good enough for me. And he takes care of that one shop and he builds a mezzanine, like an artificial floor in his home. It's still there in Bombay. And that's, so above his home, he makes an artificial floor where he sits down and practices. So his philosophy is very straightforward. He says, do what you have to do for your family. The basics, you have to provide for your family, do your work, provide for your family. But all the other time, you should direct towards who am I? He said, this is the most important question you can ask yourself. Don't waste your time in other kinds of frivolous activities. Ask, who am I? And he says, in his case, he did this so sincerely. He would do his work at the shop, then come back and sit and just keep asking, who am I? What am I? Where is this? Who is taking delivery of this experience? And he said that it took him about 3.5 years. The work was done. And they say you cannot hide an elephant behind any leaf. And there's no leaf in this world big enough to hide an elephant. There are some really big leaves, but there's no leaf big enough to hide an elephant. So there's a nice word in Hindi, like tej, the spiritual potency, the power of this person was so great that even being a cigarette seller, who you would normally say, come on, how can that person be spiritual? People began getting attracted to him. Just like the bees discover the flowers. And then he would interact with them and a lot of amazing things happened. And he continued staying there. In fact, the audio recordings are painful to hear because his house is right next to the road. So you can hear the honking and the beeping and the vendors selling stuff the whole time. And it's so unpleasant. But the written works, the transcriptions, there's a famous book, I Am That, which would be probably the most famous book about him, but there are many other books. And he just starts engaging, just like you just go to him and he just start having a normal conversation. Oh, so what's your name and where are you from and what do you believe and why did you come here? And just in the first few minutes, you'll start tripping over yourself. And just his presence, everything that you believe to be true, you're going to start tripping over yourself. You're almost like building your own trap. The more you're talking to him, you just read the book. And the more you're talking to him, you're just digging your own grave. Because very soon you're going to realize, my goodness, all of this is one big conceptual prison I've built for myself. I'm none of this. I'm none of this. And that just happens flawlessly in the process of conversation. So when I first came across Nisargadatta Maharaj, I actually didn't like this happened to me many times actually. First time I come across a teacher, sometimes I say, what kind of an arrogant teacher is it? Don't like this. But when I revisit it, I see the depth in it. So the first time I read him, I found him to be very arrogant and almost rude, the way he questioned people. But then years later, I picked up his book again and I Am That. And suddenly it just felt like, wow, finally someone's talking straight. Finally, someone's not beating around the bush. Finally, someone's telling it the way it is. I had such gratitude. So a lot of gratitude to Nisargadatta Maharaj as well. Some of you may have heard of this very famous spiritual book. It's called Autobiography of a Yogi. So it's written by a teacher called Paramahansa Yogananda. So I read that. It was one of the first spiritual books I read, along with Ramakrishna Paramahansa's book, Gospel of Ramakrishna. So that book talks about a great yogi called Mahavatar Babaji. So somebody told me years back that if you just repeat Babaji's name, then he will make himself manifest. He will manifest himself to you. And I thought about it and I forgot about it. And then years later, I was in my monastery in Thailand and I hit a certain spot in my practice. I was just stuck. And then in the library, somebody had donated a book by another disciple of Mahavatar Babaji. So Mahavatar Babaji is supposed to be this eternal yogi. He's supposed to be someone who's his body has gone on to become a light body. So he doesn't age. So he's like one of those teachers who's assisting humanity at this time. And so I came across this book, and then that reignited my desire to connect with Babaji, and I began chanting his mantra. And in those few months, very, very miraculous things began happening, very fantastic things began happening, very exceptional things began happening. And a lot of guidance began coming, and I would ask questions and I get answers. And it became clear to me what my path ahead is. So I actually would credit Babaji with the work I'm doing now, the fact that I've left my monastic life and I'm out here doing all of this. I think he guided me to do that. At least I'm putting the blame on him anyway. But he never really wanted me to talk about him much. So which is why I don't talk about him too much. So I would invoke him and I would continue teaching. But I never had a sense that he wants me to talk about him that openly. But today is Guru Purnima, so we have a chance to talk about these things. So Mahavatar Babaji has been a great blessing. So there's a nice mantra, Om Kriya Babaji Nama Om. Why don't we repeat it 10 times? That's a way of connecting with Babaji. So Om Kriya Babaji Nama Om. Kriya Babaji Nama Om. Kriya Babaji Nama Om. Kriya Babaji Nama. Kriya Babaji Nama. Om Kriya Babaji Nama. Kriya Babaji Nama. Om Kriya Babaji Nama. Kriya Babaji Nama. Om Kriya Babaji Nama Om. So Babaji has many exceptional qualities, and one of his qualities is that if you think of him sincerely, then he will lift up ordinary people and make them into great spiritual masters. This is one of his qualities. There are many great spiritual teachers in this world, and you could think of him as a teacher of teachers. So if you tune into him, and if it is your wish to walk on this path of spirituality, then you will find you're just lifted up at a much higher level than you ever could have imagined. And so he's a great spiritual teacher. Ramakrishna Paramahansa, some of you have heard of him, a great saint of India. And one of his qualities was that he decided to prove through his own life that every single path takes us to that same Godhead. So whether it's the Jain path or the Buddhist path or the Muslim path or the Sufi path or the Tantric path, Christian path, Hindu path, and within Hinduism there are many paths. So he proved not just as a kind of a philosophical, but in a practical way. He followed every single path. He actually took a teacher and followed their teachings. And rather quickly, he reached the ultimate with each path. So he showed through his own life experience, every single path, followed sincerely. In fact, Ramakrishna says something very remarkable. He says, even if you have a fake teacher, even if you have a false teacher, but if your intention is sincere, you will reach God or whatever you consider to be the highest through that teacher. I love that teaching, right? So even a fake teacher will take you to the highest if you have sincerity in the way you practice. How beautiful is that? Ultimately, it's your sincerity. So don't worry about the Sadguru or the not so Sadguru, the somewhat fake guru. It doesn't matter what the guru is. The real guru is always inside. True guru is inside. So all these outer gurus are designed to make you meet your inner guru. Right? That's the teaching of Paramahansa, Ramakrishna Paramahansa. He was also the teacher of a very famous monk, Swami Vivekananda. Some of you have heard of Swami Vivekananda. And then, now I just want to be mindful of the time. So I have a long list, but I'm probably going to skip around a little bit. So next one I want to talk about is Byron Katie. Byron Katie wrote a book called Loving What Is. She had an awakening when a cockroach crawled over her foot. She was deeply depressed and a cockroach crawled over her foot. And in that moment, she recognized it's not the cockroach crawling over the foot that's the problem. It's the thought, there's a cockroach on my foot. And that was it. That was her awakening, right? So what for you and I would be quite an annoyance, horrible cockroach, my house is full of cockroaches, what the hell is going on? In her case, that was the moment of realization. In fact, right now you can have that realization when you're able to distinguish life from the story of life. And one of our main teachings is that reality is kinder than the stories we tell. You're always supported by reality. You're always held. And it's not reality that's bugging you. It's your story about reality that's bugging you. That's your suffering. Arguing with reality is your suffering. Reality by itself is not suffering. So she has these 4 simple questions, which can take you really deep. Is it true? Are you absolutely sure it's true? What happens when you believe that thought? Who are you without that thought? So check out Byron Katie and the work, her practice is called The Work. these 4 questions. There's lots of videos on YouTube. So I've learned a lot from Byron Katie. And what I really like about Byron Katie is she's not coming from any spiritual background. So she was just a middle class housewife in California. She had not even heard this famous word, which has now become a worldwide word, namaste. She never heard the word namaste. So after her awakening, when people began coming to her house and ringing the doorbell and saying namaste, then her ears would pick it up as no mistake. No mistake. Come on in. Namaste. No mistake. Come on in. She's like, come on in. Come on in. No mistake. She's like, why are you even coming here? You already know the answer. There's no mistake. So what I like about Katie is she's not coming from any kind of a conditioning around what spirituality is, what this is, what that. And it's just questioning, inquiring. And so that leads to us a remarkably fresh take on just about everything, challenging just about every single notion that we have. And there's something really powerful about that. If you want a curriculum, I would recommend taking 2 books. One is called 1,000 Names for Joy. This is by Byron Katie. And another book called the Tao Te Ching. Tao Te Ching is an ancient book by Lao Tzu, translated by, the version I recommend is the one translated by her husband. Byron Katie's husband, Stephen Michel, has translated the Tao Te Ching. So 81 verses, they're all very short verses. 81 verses of the Tao Te Ching. And each verse has been given a commentary by Byron Katie. So if you want a curriculum, then every day read 1 verse of the Tao Te Ching, followed by 1 chapter from 1,000 Names for Joy. And you can message me after 81 days and say, yes, thank you, I'm a different person. Because you will be a different person. Some of your core ideas about life will get questioned and get reshaped in that process. Another great important teacher for me is Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi. Some of you have heard of him. Had an awakening when, as a boy, he pretended to be dead. He said, what will happen if I die right now? He just pretended to be dead. You see, the word pretend contains the word tend. What you pretend to be, you tend to be. So he pretended to be dead. And he pretended that these people have come and taken his body to the cremation ground and they burnt his body and now they've all gone away. And he noticed something is still there. They burnt my body, but something is still there. And he had a glimpse of his eternal nature. As a teenager, he was actually a school-going boy when he had this nature, had this experience. And initially, he just tried to remain a normal school-going boy, but he'd already woken up to a whole other dimension. He couldn't hide it for long. He had to leave and go and live at a place called Arunachala, a beautiful mountain in the south of India. And he spent the rest of his life there till the age of about 80 when he passed on. And so very powerful teacher, very influential teacher for me, Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi. Main teaching of Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi was actually not a teaching. My main teaching is my silence, he said. I speak for the slow ones. He said, come and sit with me. Just be here with me. Everything will get clear. The teacher from Lucknow called Punjaji, HWL Punjaji, also called Papaji. And he was one of the first people who helped me understand Advaita Vedanta, non-duality. I was staying at his ashram. It's not exactly an ashram, it's more like a building called Satsang Bhavan in Lucknow. And as I was there and interacting with the disciples, he'd already passed on by then, but staying there, he was actually a disciple of Ramana Maharishi. And when I seeing his videos and reading his books, I just got it. Because until that point, I was you see, there are 2 approaches to spirituality, the progressive path and the direct path. The progressive path is develop this, develop that, keep developing. And the direct path is saying, listen, you're already that. You're already that, but you're pretending like you're not. So I never understood the direct path, but with Punjaji's teaching, it was clear as daylight. I get what he's pointing at. I get it. Finally get it. Made sense. So a lot of gratitude to Punjaji. All right, my list is long, but I'm going to skip straight down to one of my favorite influences is Saint Germain. Saint Germain is an ascended master, and he's also the keeper of what's called the violet flame. The violet flame is a kind of a spiritual energy which purifies you and protects you at the same time. It represents divine wisdom. And Saint Germain, Ascended Master, is someone who's had many, many lifetimes on Earth and then has developed himself to a level where he's now overseeing a very big role. So Saint Germain, like Mahavatar Babaji, has been an important influence for me and has really supported my work. So I'm going to end by chanting the prayer of Saint Germain. So you can just listen to this, and if you want to repeat parts of it with me, you can. Saint Germain, Saint Germain, Saint Germain, Saint Germain. Saint Germain, Saint Germain, Saint Germain, Saint Germain. Saint Germain, Saint Germain, Saint Germain, Saint Germain, Saint Germain and the violet flame. Saint Germain and the violet flame. I'm a being of violet fire. I'm a being of violet fire. I'm a being of violet fire. I'm the purity life desires. I'm the purity life desires. I'm a being of violet fire. I'm the purity life desires. I'm a being of violet fire. I'm the purity life desires. I'm a being of violet presence. I'm a being of violet presence. I'm purity in its essence. I am purity in its essence. I am a being of violet presence. I am purity in its essence. Up in flames, everything's up in violet flames, up in flames, everything's up in violet flames. Up in flames, everything's up in violet flames, up in flames, everything's up in violet flames. I'm a being of violet fire. I'm the purity life desires. Saint Germain, Saint Germain, Saint Germain, and the violet flame. Saint Germain, Saint Germain, Saint Germain, and the violet flame. Saint Germain, and the violet flame. Saint Germain, and the violet flame. Saint Germain and the violet flame. Om Kriya Babaji Namo. Om Kriya Babaji Namo. Om Kriya Babaji Namo. Om Kriya Babaji Namo. Om Kriya Babaji Nama. Kriya Babaji Nama. Kriya Babaji Nama. Om Kriya Babaji Nama. Om. Divine, 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 divine. Together divine, together divine, together divine, together divine. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Ong ahong bang zagur padma siddhi hong 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 Ong ahong vajra guru padma siddhi hong ong ahong vajra guru padma siddhi hong Om Shri Sai Ram, Om Shri Sai Ram, Om Shri Sai Ram, Om Shri Sai Ram, Om Shri Sai Ram. आपसे ही हो सारे काम। ओम श्री साई राम, ओम श्री साई राम, ओम श्री साई राम। ओम आनंदमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे, आनंदमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे। ओम आनंदमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे, सत्यमयी परमे। इतिपिसो भगवा अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो विद्याचरण संपन्नो सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरिसधम्म सारथि सत्था देव मनुस्सानं बुद्धो भगवाति। स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो संदिट्ठिको अक्कालिको एहिपस्सिको औपनयिको पश्चत्तं वेदितव्यो विन्यो हीति। सुपरिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो उजुपरिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो न्यायपरिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो सामीचि परिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो यदिदं चत्तारि पुरुषयुगानि अथ पुरुषपुग्गला एष भगवतो सावक संगो आहुनैयो पाहुनैयो दक्षिणैयो अञ्जलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यक्षेत्रं लोकस्याति। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता सर्वबुद्धानुभावेन सदा सोत्थि भवन्तु ते। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता सर्वधर्मानुभावेन सदा सोत्थि भवन्तु ते। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता सर्वसङ्घानुभावेन सदा सोत्थि भवन्तु ते। And you can repeat after me if you like. Imina punyakamena mame balasamagamo satang samagamo hotu yavanibbanapattiya. Imina punyakamena mame balasamagamo satang samagamo hotu yavanibbanapattiya. Imina punyakamena mame balasamagamo satang samagamo hotu yavanibbanapattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Amazing, beautiful, everybody. I'm going to give you a 3-minute break. Going to come back and Maya is going to take over and lead us in a guided meditation. So why don't you stretch your legs and get some water if you like. See you back in about 3 minutes.
Thank you, Nithya. I'm really honored and inspired to be here today.
So we're going to start, Maya, we're going to start in 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, let's take a short break. Okay.
Just All right, warm welcome back, everybody. Going to be spotlighting Maya. And Maya, please, before you start, let them know a little bit about your journey and how you got into doing what you're doing. And then you can take it into the meditation.
Thank you, Nithya. Hello, everybody. My name is Maya Pakic, once again from Belgrade, Serbia. So I like to call myself meditative artist because we all know meditation is a state, is not a thing we do. So to say meditation teacher, you cannot really teach meditation, but you can hold a space, you can guide other people, you can help them to come and to embrace this state. And once this state is familiar to you, you can meditate while doing anything, while washing dishes, everything. So why meditative art? Well, I was always in love with philosophy, with art, nature, all these things. And somehow I see art everywhere around me. I was always fascinated by colors. I noticed from early childhood that, when you spend some time in nature, you enjoy the greenery, how it can help you clear your mind, relax, open your heart. Later, I find out that in yoga philosophy, green would be the color of heart chakra. So that explains these things. Also, I like to paint in my free time. And when I paint, I just let intuition guide me. I let colors guide me. But I meditate more than 25 years. It came like everything in life as it should. There was a book first came to my hands, and I remember it for life. It's called From Darkness into Light, written by Paramhans Swami Maheshwarananda. It was hard for me to learn to pronounce the name, but once I learned also about my name, Maya, that it means illusion. I didn't really like that, but then when I learned more about the philosophy and I learned that Maya was also the mother of Buddha, then Maya is the goddess of spring in Roman and Greek philosophy. And for me, that's also some kind of art, how we use words, how we understand our own names, how we express our thoughts, the power of words. So the first thing that I can notice that was a huge lesson for me that changed my perception of life, thanks to meditation, it was also the art of listening. When we are teenagers, we like to talk, to express, to share, but we don't really learn how to listen. And meditation is just guiding us to hear and to really open to this inner voice, but also to listen better to our own breath, to our heartbeat, to our thoughts, emotions, to other people. So we have better, more meaningful, more honest relationships, and we understand other people better. So we develop also a special kind of compassion, which is also art of compassion, if you ask me. With this lesson of being a listener, we also somehow get to be observers. So we start appreciating not only the present moment, but the beauty. We can find beauty everywhere if we want. Even, in the darkest night, we can remember some beautiful moment, and that can give us strength. And we all know life is not only happy, shiny people and positive thinking. That's a fake thing, of course. We are sometimes sad, sometimes we are angry, disappointed, but we also need dark to go to sleep and to have peaceful, deep, relaxing sleep. So we need day, we need night, we need darkness, we need light. So darkness is also a teacher. So we should not be afraid of it. We should not hide from it. We should learn the lesson and let the light come into these dark places. About colors, I want to tell you, This also combining my next lesson, which is the beauty of imperfection. When I was teenage or elementary school, these years, I was very competitive, and my parents and my teachers, they would often tell me, you're the best, you're the first. So being exposed to those words that might sound nice, but we develop this eagerness to be perfect, which is illusion of the mind. To be perfect is not really, we should love being imperfect. And somehow I also discovered this Japanese philosophy called wabi-sabi, which celebrates the beauty of imperfection. So with this, for example, when you paint or when you write a book or whatever thing you're making, creating, you don't like to show that to people before you think it's done. And it's never done because it's never perfect. So I read somewhere that painting is never done, but the painter has to stop somewhere. So that's why celebrating colors, intuition, inspiration, and the beauty of imperfection, I put this work in progress behind me. Like if you asked me 20 years ago, I would never show it. It's not done yet, it's not perfect. But I want to tell you, this is one of my lessons from meditation practice. There is much, much more, but I think it is really important for our awareness and spreading this consciousness around us to learn how to listen, really to listen. Every message is signs we get from life, every person that has something to say, just to hold a space for them, to support, to feel their words, to be there. Also, that is going deeper in our minds, so we learn how to be there for our own selves. It's easy to go into negative spiral of thoughts with this inner critique that we all have. But with meditation practice, we are waking up this inner observer, and then we see things differently. It's opening the bigger picture, shifting perspective. So you all know meditation is something that you can do anytime, anywhere, any position, with eyes closed, open, even dynamic. What I also like is dancing and dancing meditations. And also here in Serbia, we have a band, it's called Divine Sound, and we create meditative ambiental music. I will play some of it for you today during meditation. I'm the dancer in the band with my meditative dance. And also, I always like to remind us to this old philosophy that our hands are extensions of our heart. So everything you like to do with your hands actually is making your heart joyful, expanding. It's healing. So take a moment now, please, with your eyes open, just to feel your left palm, feel your right palm, and just put on your heart center the left hand and the right hand. And now slowly close your eyes. And just feel your heart in this moment. Imagine breathing through your hands straight into your heart. And just listen. How is your heart now? And just whisper to your heart, I am here for you. I am always here for you. And now slowly open your arms and just feel your palms and feel the energy of your heart expanding into your arms, into your palms. Feel the rhythm of your heart in your hands. The rhythm of your heart is the rhythm of life in your hands. And now focus on your forehead. And just remember what these hands like to do, to create, to touch, to hug. And just let these pictures come into your mind. And now slowly just put your hands into prayer position. Feel your heart. Feel your hands. Feel your forehead. And just mentally say, I intend to find more time to do and everything what you love to do with your hands. And you can now slowly relax your hands and slowly open your eyes. So you see, this is very simple meditative practice to connect with our heart, to open and to feel this energy in our hands, in our minds, to feel this unity. And you know, love in action, that is what we need. We don't need some passive love, love in action. And with our hands, we can put this love in action. Also, what I like to share is, you know, when you see somebody is a spiritual teacher, meditation teacher, yoga teacher, or a coach, this and that. I also, here in Belgrade, I have a beautiful yard, which I turned into a yoga bashta in Serbian, which means yoga garden. So we have wonderful group meditation sessions, sometimes with gong, sometimes different things. I choose different techniques, and also thanks to colors, I created this program of meditative color therapy. So every week we have one workshop with one color. So I create this color altar that we really can feel the energy influence of some color and how to use it in different ways. But that also guides me to one thing, that, you know, we are not perfect. I need to repeat. And also we should not expect that somebody who is a teacher or something, that he is also some perfect, some ideal person. You know, everyone can get angry, can make a mistake, which can turn into a lesson, into, you know, we can turn crisis into transformation, new opportunity, and so on. But everything we can use or abuse. So everything that is here on earth or in universe, a man or a woman can use or abuse. So important thing is that everything can be cured or can be poisoned. So we all know this, but we sometimes need to remind ourselves. So we all have some toxic thoughts, some toxic emotions, this and that. So recently I was thinking, what is the most toxic thing in my everyday life? And I realized it's also connected to colors and with my little bit of obsession. And this is about nail polishes. So I just want to show you a tiny part of my collection. So I love all the colors. I love to play with them, but I know this is a toxic thing. So if any one of you create some organic and non-toxic and natural nail polish in these vivid colors, please let me know. I would promote you for the rest of my life. But what I want to say with this is also we can meditate while playing with colors. Is it painting? Is it doing your nails? Is it doing your makeup? You know, we can also make creative and meditative spiritual things from these everyday things. This concept for tonight is called sensitive to life. Sensitive to life. What does this mean? We are all sensitive in nature to this, to that. Sometimes it is hard for us. For example, if we are not feeling very balanced, we have a flu or something like that, so we are sensitive to light, to sound. Or we can consider this to be our soft spot. For example, if I hear a song that resonates with me deeply, I can cry, but for me, it's a cathartic experience, you know? So modern day and modern people, we don't like to be sensitive. We like to be warriors. We like to be leaders. We like to be strong. But if we want to be totally honest with ourselves, of course, we all have some sensitivity, some soft spot, but we need just to understand that that is not making us weak. Being vulnerable is natural human thing, and allowing and expressing this vulnerability is actually making us stronger. There is a courage in vulnerability. So let's stop being sensitive to other people's opinion or social norms or fashion trends. That is abuse of sensitivity. But being sensitive to life, to beauty, to wisdom, to justice, to truth, we all know what are the virtues, what are the good deeds. So I really believe that we naturally are all sensitive to this, and that we are all born on this planet to celebrate life, to be in service of life. So let's start slowly with meditation. I would just like to put some music on. So this is the music from my band called Divine Sound. I hope you will enjoy it. So let's just sit comfortably, close our eyes.
Is the music on your laptop? Then you can even share the sound directly, Maya. Are you playing it from
Yes,
outside?
do you hear it well?
You can even say share. If you click on the green button at the bottom and you'll say share computer sound, then you'll hear it more clearly. Try that. There'll be a green button on your screen. And go to...
Is it better now?
No, it doesn't happen like that. You have to click on... after you click the green button, there'll be an advanced. Go to advanced. Stop share right now. I'll stop share it. I'll just help you. So click on the green button and then click on advanced and then click on computer sound and then it'll come. There'll be three. There'll be basic, advanced, and files. Click on advanced.
Advanced all participants. No?
No, you
I don't
click
hear
on...
you really well.
You can't hear me well? Otherwise, it's fine. It's not a big deal. You can still kind of hear it. It'll be much clearer if you're able to do that. There's a green button at the bottom, share screen, and then you click on advanced, and then you say computer sound, and it'll be much clearer then.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, just email me the sound, and I can...
Okay, I see it now.
You see it? Yeah.
and feel his parents behind him, your grandparents, your father's side. negative spiral of thoughts which creates negative emotions. And then if we don't allow these emotions, if we don't learn from it, if we don't transform it, then we store it somewhere in the body. So, okay, I was angry again today. I didn't want to see my anger and now my back hurts or something similar. So heart has nothing to do with our negative emotions. Negative emotions are mostly product of negative mindsets or thoughts. So the cause is in the mind. And remember, anytime you feel some emotional discomfort, some heaviness in your chest, do something with your hands, make food, hug somebody, do some gardening, do some drawing, writing, painting, whatever you like. There is an old Serbian saying that while going through life, we carry only two things with ourselves. First thing we carry is what we have in our minds, and second thing is what we know to make with our hands. But also we know that our mind is not the enemy. Inner critique is what calls for an inner observer. But inner critique is also helping us get to know ourselves better, helping us grow. So please continue in your everyday life to listen to your inner voice and to signs and other people, to observe without judgment, to embrace the beauty of life. Remember to give thanks to your ancestors. Remember they gave you life. And stay sensitive to life. And slowly let's put our hands into prayer position. And please, in your own words, say your own prayer of gratitude to life. I will say mine out loud for all of us, but after that, please say in your own words. Thank you, life, for all the lessons and all the blessings that you are giving us every day. our hands, in our heart, and to remember when we feeling heavy, to do something with our hands. Be love in action.
Amazing, Maya. Thank you so much. That was really brilliant. If you want to put the music, you can slow down the music a bit if you like.
Yeah, I will just music.
Someone is saying, I have a flight to catch, but I don't feel the need to sleep at all. I'm feeling so refreshed and rejuvenated. So
I didn't hear well somehow.
I said someone has said that I have a flight to catch, but I'm not feeling a need for sleeping anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really was very special. And I wanted to introduce everyone to your work and to you. And is there a way, some people are asking how they can be in touch and how they can find out more about your work. What's the best way to reach you? And what are some of the...
Yes, you can find me on Instagram. I can type it here.
Yeah, type it in.
Okay.
You can also, there are also people listening from Instagram. So it's at, what is it? Maya.
Oops.
You send it to me.
Sorry, I sent it privately.
That's all right. Don't worry, don't worry.
Okay, it is here, my Instagram, so you can contact me there. But I would also like to give 3 free consultation calls.
Already. How can they contact you on Instagram? Is the
So
best
I
way?
will just write my email.
Yeah, write your email. Great. What will the consultation call be about?
So if you are going through some personal crisis these days, if you have some emotional heaviness, you see my way of work. So we do also a lot with colors and different things. But we can, if you have specific issue that you need, like personal crisis, or you're going through some emotional heaviness, we can schedule a call and see how I can serve you, how I can help you.
Yeah, great.
Or I can just give you, some advice of some practices that you can do on your own.
Very nice. I think it's a real gift how you've converted your love of art and music. And I know you do so much more than what you shared here today, and how you're converging all of that into one beautiful, you made meditation into an art form. And that's really a gift.
Thank you. Actually, I had another concept, but when you said, father and mother on my left, I was like, oh, I have to do this one.
That's lovely. I like how you're improvising as you go. And so great. Once things open up, then maybe we can also get you down to India and have you share some work of yours here. And I'm sure people would love to come to Serbia. What a wonderful country.
Yes.
And see your yoga garden that you created there.
Yes, it is really wonderful. You can see pictures on my Instagram or Facebook.
Okay, great, great. Thank you. So I'll just say a few words before we end. So today's session is a Guru Purnima session. And also tomorrow, actually, I'm offering another Guru Purnima at 10:30 a.m. India time. I'm going to be sharing another session on Guru Purnima. You can join that if you like. You'll find the links on my Instagram and Telegram page and things. So what I wanted to say is that today I mentioned several teachers, and sometimes you can start imagining that it's these people who have the special quality. But what I want to mention is that actually it's not the people. There is what's called Guru Tattva. It is the element of the Guru Tattva. And any one of us can access that. So just think of it as just like there's space, just like there's air, just like there's electricity, there's the internet. These are just things which are there in the world, not always visible, but they're still there. So in the same way, in today's Guru Purnima, I want to remind you of a quote by Nisargadatta Maharaj. He said, "I'm not here to create followers. I'm here to create great gurus." great teachers. It's a very powerful way of looking at it. So we're not just here to follow others, we're here to connect in our own way to that ultimate reality, and then use that insight that we have, just like Maya has her own unique way of doing it. Earlier, we've had Sarah Thompson is here listening, but she's been part of these calls in the past, and she's shared her amazing magical stuff with us, how we can, amazing ways that we can tune into higher dimensions. And so each one of us has our own unique gift, and how we share that, bring that out into the world. And the invitation is to connect to that Guru Tattva, that element of the Guru, which is not about a person. It is about our capacity to awaken. It is about our capacity to liberate ourselves and others. And so my wish for you tonight, this Guru Purnima, is that every single one of us gains that direct connection with the Guru Tattva, and we become powerful channels of that in the world, for the world, as the world. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Take a minute of silence before we end. Take a slow deep breath. And Maya, can you end by giving us for 1 minute?
I was just searching for the link to share music with you.
That's all right. And I'd like you to share for 1 minute. Can you give us a blessing in Serbian that nobody understands, but they get to feel?
Yes,
So you make a powerful wish. You make a powerful secret wish that, except for the people here from Serbia and Sarah, who can understand all these crazy languages. So you're going to share with us a blessing in your language, and we're just going to feel the power of your blessing. So go ahead.
Božanska ruka nas voli i vodi. Božanska ruka nas voli i vodi. Hvala ti, živote, na svim lekcijama i svim blagoslovima koje nam svakoga dana velikodušno šalješ. Verujemo u život i život veruje u nas. Širimo mudrost, radost, mir, lepotu, ljubav svuda oko sebe. Hvala.
How beautiful. Amazing. What fun. Thank you, Maya, and come and play with us again. And
Thank you. It was really such a pleasure.
And I do hope some people from the community get a chance to interact with you further and keep learning with you, because you have so much to offer. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for agreeing to come and share your gifts with our community. Thank you, and be well, everybody. We end with something called Mayurma. It's a way of sending loving wishes. Take your hands up. Make a big heart in the air. And multiply that by infinity 3 times. And we say together, Mayurma, Mayurma. All right. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. Let me actually give you a chance to make some noise on the way out. You can say goodbye on the way out. You can unmute yourself and say goodbye.
Goodbye, man.
Thank you.
Incredible, Maya.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Very much.
Thank you, Maya.
Absolutely brilliant.
Thanks a lot,
Happy Guru Purnima.
Nithya and Maya, for a great session. Beautiful.
Thank you, Nithya. Thank you, Maya.
Come again, Maya.
Come again,
Wonderful.
Maya.
Thank you very much.
Arigato.
Thank you, Nithya.
Arigato. Thank you.
So much, so thank.
Lots of love. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right.